Hey guys, and welcome to this automation tutorial. My name is Alistair, and today we'll be taking a look at how to create this email booking agent that's going to handle all of your leads for you inside of n8n. It's going to answer any questions they may have and try to book them in as soon as possible, and even reply to those emails for you. It will also schedule those bookings directly inside your Google Calendar. The agent will also have access to all your business information, so it has more context and can just give more accurate responses to the leads. You can include any information you want inside of this vector store, such as FAQs, contact information, and other key details. And as a bonus, I'm going to be showing you guys how to actually upload those files to your Pinecone vector store. So your agent actually has something to reference, and it's not just guessing, it's pulling real info from your business. So if we take a look at the vote for the next automation poll, we can see that it was a tie between the auto tweet agent and the email responder plus call booker, 5 votes for each. I've decided to go with the email responder, but I'm just going to switch things up and make it inside of n8n instead of make.com, because making agents is just way easier inside of n8n. And I know make.com have released their own AI agents, but I still think n8n agents are just on top. Also, connecting your Gmail is just way smoother in n8n, and you can't really run into any issues with the setup. So I guess this video is for my audience who love n8n, or if you want to just try something out new, then just follow along, and I'll explain it step by step. And I would recommend having some general knowledge on n8n. It is similar to Make in some ways, but I would still recommend researching a bit about it and learning the basics. So enough yapping, and let's dive into the actual tutorial. So it consists of 3 main components. Part 1 is going to check if the email is from a lead. If it is, it will move on to part 2. And part 2 is the actual AI booking agent. It will either persuade the lead to book a call or just reply to any questions they may have. So it's going to nurture the lead for you. And it does this using the context and knowledge we upload to the business info in part 3. This third part isn't really a separate step, but you can say it is an extra feature to the AI booking agent that's going to power it with all the context it needs. You can also just add as much info as you want into this tool. It's just so powerful, and that's why I've added it as a separate part. And by the way, you will need an n8n account for this, so I put a link in the description. You can just click on it and create an account for yourself. n8n is a no-code platform, so there is no coding skills required in this tutorial. And by the way, all the resources to build this agent will be in the description of this tutorial inside of my community, Automation Academy. The resources will have all the site links, API key links, all the prompts and references used throughout this video, such as all the contents of each node. I've also provided all the blueprints for this automation, including the actual email booking agent itself. So you can just click on the file and press download and import it straight into your n8n by pressing the 3 dots, pressing import from file, and just selecting the file you just downloaded, and you should get the whole agent without having to lift a finger. You can just do the same thing with the second blueprint provided. So if you want access to all the resources mentioned, just head over to school.com/aliautomates, or just head over to the first link in the description to check it out. You'll also gain access to the growing automation library, which is for tutorials like this one, which have their own ready-to-use blueprints, templates, and prompts attached to each one of them. You can also vote for the next automation, which I think is pretty sick. With that said, let's actually start building this thing. So just head over to your n8n dashboard and just press create a workflow to get started. So we can see in part 1, we're going to need a Gmail trigger, and then we're going to need some sort of message model to determine whether this email is from a lead or not. And then based on that, if the email isn't a lead, we need to mark the message as read to make sure that the agent doesn't read the same email twice. So let's just add the first step. The first step is going to be a Gmail trigger. So search up Gmail, and you should see Gmail right here. Let's click on that. You see on message received, and this is the trigger. And now in the Gmail trigger, we can actually connect the Gmail account we want it to listen to. So you can create a new credential. And this is how easy n8n makes it for us. You literally just press OAuth 2 and sign in with your Google account. And that's all you have to do. It is so damn easy. Once we've done that, we can now change the polling times. For this example, I'm just going to pick every minute. And then the event is going to be message received. And where it says simplify, we can just untoggle that because we want to have access to all of the outputs. And here, where it says filters, we can add a new filter, and then we can select read status, and then you need to select unread emails only. And what this is going to do is it's only going to find the unread emails in our inbox, allowing us to skip emails that have already been read. So select back to Canvas. And the next thing that we need to add is the OpenAI message model. So you can just select new node and search up OpenAI text actions message model. It's right here. Just click on that. And before we do anything, we actually have to connect n8n with OpenAI. So let's create a new credential from the dropdown, and we just need an API key. So if you just head over to the API key links in the description and just click the OpenAI API key link, you'll be taken to the OpenAI platform. If you don't have an account, you do need to create an OpenAI account, but chances are you've used ChatGPT once in your life, so you do have an OpenAI account, and you should be taken to this exact page. Just click Create New Secret Key, enter the name of your key. This can be anything you want. I'm just going to name it Demonstration Key, and then just set the project to your project, and then press Create Secret Key. Just copy that key and paste it into the API key field, and then just hit save. And your credential should be fully connected. Just make sure your OpenAI account is selected from the dropdown. Set the resource to text, operation message a model, and then the model can be whatever you want. I'm going to select GPT-4o. I always use GPT-4o. And then this is where we need to put the prompt. The first prompt is going to help the OpenAI message model differentiate between what is a non-lead email and what is a lead email, and the things that it should look out for. And for the second prompt, we just need to provide the email so that it obviously knows what the hell we're talking about in the first place. So I have decided to provide this in the description of this tutorial. If you go to the resources section, prompts and references, you'll find the OpenAI message model prompt, the system, and the user prompt. So these are the two prompts. This is obviously the one that allows it to differentiate, and then this is just the email. So let's actually copy and paste this into our n8n OpenAI node. If we just paste it here into the prompt section, I'm just going to quickly explain what it actually does so that you understand how to modify this for yourself, right? So the first section just tells it what a potential lead would look like, covers anyone showing genuine interest in our services or requesting to book a discovery call, ask about pricing, features, or availability. So any of these things in the email means that it's a green flag to the AI, that it is a potential lead, right? So it knows exactly what to look out for. You can obviously modify it to your liking. And then we need to get a true or false Boolean value, right? We need to be able to split the workflow depending if it is from a non-lead or a lead. So if it's a non-lead, it can just ignore that email. Okay, so we would need to just turn that response from our message model into a true or false value to simplify things as much as possible. So we can say set potential lead true if the email indicates an interest in our offerings. Otherwise, set it to false, no additional keys or text. And because we want a true or false value, we are actually going to need to toggle the output content as JSON so that we can just get a JSON Boolean value like this. So we can set the role to system. And now the second prompt is just going to be the email itself. So it's not really a prompt. You can just go down to the OpenAI message model prompt user, just copy and paste this to here. And this is just going to provide it with all that information it needs. The name of the person, the subject of the email, and also the body. You can leave this role as user. And I'm just going to run the workflow so that you can see exactly how this looks like for the message model. Just save it and just test the workflow. I just created a quick test email before this. So we can go down to here, open this up, and we can see that all the variables turn the green. That means that they actually exist, right? So we can also see the result. It says here is the email, name, Alistair, subject test, body test. So it correctly extracted all of those variables from the Gmail trigger. So after you have set that up, we can move on to the next part now. Now we can actually split the automation depending if the email is a non-lead or a lead. So we can add another module. We can add the switch module and we can press it. So we could use a filter if we just didn't want to do anything with the non-lead email, but we're going to use a switch instead because we still want to leave that email as read so that our agent doesn't then go over that email again. It's just going to clean things up and make things as simple as possible. So you can add the switch node and then we need to add two routing rules, right? It needs to split up into two routes. The mode is going to be rules. And for the first rule, we can just set value 1 to potential lead. And then you can select this drop down and it's a Boolean value. So you can select this and the first rule needs to be is false. And then you can just do the same variable potential lead. And this is the variable coming out of our OpenAI message model, by the way. So you might have to actually run it so that you can gain access to this variable. But if not, you can just copy this exact code. Okay, so it needs to be Boolean again and it needs to be set to true because you want to split it up. If it's false, it's going to go one way. If it's true, the automation is going to go another way. We don't have to do anything else. We can just go back to the canvas and there we go. We should have two routes now. So first, we are going to do the route where the email is not a lead. So we can add a node. You can search up Gmail. Then you need to go to the mark message as read right here. And then we are going to need some sort of message ID. So we need to provide the message ID, which is actually the thread ID of the email that is being received. But right now we don't have access to that variable yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to test this workflow so that we can gain access to the thread ID. Just connect that back up. Okay, and then we can go down to the Gmail trigger and you should find the thread ID. We can just drag that over here and boom, it should be green and you should see this row of numbers. That is the thread ID. So go back to the canvas, press save. So now that we've successfully checked whether the email was from a lead or a non-lead using the ChatGPT message model, we can now move on to the main part of the agent, which is the AI booking agent in part 2. This AI booking agent will book the lead or answer any questions they have using the ChatGPT message model and the tools provided. So let me quickly go through each tool. The first tool is going to be the Google Calendar Create an Event tool. This is just going to allow the agent to schedule bookings for us. And the second tool is going to be using Google Calendar also to get all the bookings in our calendar. This is going to allow the agent to check our availability to make sure we don't run into any issues like two bookings being scheduled on top of each other. And the last tool is just going to be the Gmail reply tool. So it's actually going to be able to reply to the exact email from our lead. And after it's processed the email, it's done whatever it needs to do, it's going to mark that processed email as read. So we can move on to the next. And it's also going to answer those questions with context about your business in part 3, but we'll move on to that in a bit. So we can head back into n8n and actually start building the main AI agent that's going to reply to the emails. And we need to add it onto the second route from the switch, which is going to be if the email was from a lead. So we can search up the AI agent node, this one right here. Select that. And before we do anything, we actually have to select this drop down, source for prompt. We need to set it to define below. So the first prompt is going to be a user message, and it's going to contain the actual email from the lead. So if you head over to the description and you just scroll down until you find the AI booking agent prompt, you'll find this layout right here. And if you haven't noticed, it is very similar to the OpenAI message model prompt that we used earlier, but we still need to use this exact prompt because the variables are a bit different. So you can head back to the workflow and just copy and paste that prompt. Now that we have that, you don't have to change the require specific output format. we need to add a system message so that the AI agent knows exactly how to handle this incoming email. So to do this, you can go down here, press add option, and then press the system message. Inside the system message, we just need to give the agent some instructions about how the tools work, their definitions, and also how to handle different scenarios that could occur. So I provided a very solid prompt for this. If you go over to the AI booking agent prompt system and just copy all of this and just paste it in the system message field. There we go. I'm just going to explain to you exactly what this does. So the first section of the prompt says you are an email appointment booking agent for our business. You have access to the following tools. So it describes what the agent is. So it just describes what the agent is. So I gave it some tool definitions so that it knows exactly where to go to do a certain task. And then this section is just when an email arrives. These are the things it needs to do. So it's going to put in some business context. We can do this in part 3. It needs to classify the intent, determine if the sender wants to book an appointment or simply asking questions. And here I gave it a couple scenarios that could occur and what to do in each of them. So if the lead shows booking intent, but there was no date given, it's going to send, hi, name, thanks for your interest in booking a meeting. What date and time works best for you? And then it's going to sign off with your name, right? And then next, if there is booking intent, date provided, and if the time is given without an AM or PM, or morning, afternoon, evening, any context, if it could be in the morning or the evening, it's going to reply to the email with hi, name, thanks for your message. Just to confirm, did you mean their requested time, AM or PM, right? And then if there was booking intent, date provided, if the time was complete with AM/PM or clear context, it's going to extract their proposed time, put it into a format. It's going to get all the bookings that you have to check your availability. If you are free at that requested time, it's going to schedule the event using the Google Calendar Create Event tool. And then it's going to reply to the email with hi, name, your meeting is booked for the requested time. Looking forward to it. And it's going to sign off with your name as again. If the email is already booked, so you weren't available at that scheduled time, it's going to reply to the email with, hi, name, it looks like I'm already booked at the requested time. Would you be okay meeting at my next available slot later that day? Or you could just say, would you be okay tomorrow or next week or whatever you want to put in there. It's really up to you. And then for the general questions, it's going to use the business info for context. So that is all the basic scenarios covered so that you don't run into any major issues. You can add as many scenarios as you want. It's really up to you. And then for the general questions, no, if there's no booking intent, it's going to use your business information to gather answers and context, and then it's going to reply the email with clear, concise response. Sign every email with your name. And then this just makes sure that the agent always activates a certain tool. Do not return any free-form text. Your agent should only call these tools in the order above to send replies or schedule events. So that is basically the prompt/instructions for the agent. You can customize this to your liking, but I've just given you guys a solid prompt that is going to cover some basic scenarios and it's going to make sure that your agent knows what the hell to do with the email. So now that we have our system message and also our user message, we can head back to the canvas and we can add a chat model that our agent is going to use. For this, I'm just going to use ChatGPT 4.0 again, but you can add any chat model you want. So I'm going to search up OpenAI chat model, and then from the list, I'm going to select GPT 4.0 right here, and then just go back to Canvas, and that's it. And now we need to add the tools. This is where we're going to get into the fun part. So to make this clear, we're going to need a schedule booking tool using Google Calendar. We're going to need a get all bookings tool using Google Calendar again. And we're going to need a tool that is going to allow us to reply to that email. So to schedule the booking, we can just add a new tool. We can search up the Google Calendar tool right here. And then once you've selected that, it should create the tool. And before we do anything, we do need to create a new credential. So just select the drop down and press create new credential. And all you have to do is just sign in with Google like you did with the Gmail node. And once you've done that, just hit save and just select that credential. And we can leave the resource as event. And the operation can be left as create. And you need to select your calendar that you want to use. So I'm going to use my calendar right here. And then the start time needs to be the start time that the lead requested. So for the start time, you need to do double curly brackets and just scroll down over here in suggested until you find the methods section and you'll find the from AI method. Now this method basically allows the parameter to be passed from the large language model. So it's going to assign something to that parameter for us using AI. So your key can be anything as long as it's something to do with scheduled time so that it knows that it needs to populate this parameter with the scheduled time that the lead requested. You can add a description if you want, but I'm just going to leave that blank. And the end time is going to be whatever the start time is plus the duration of the meeting. And this code is kind of long, so I provided it in the description. If you scroll down to the Google Calendar schedule booking tool, you'll find the end time code. Just copy and paste that and replace it. And let me just explain what it does real quick. So what it will do is it will grab the schedule time, which is the same as the start time. It's going to do plus minutes 30, so it's going to add on 30 minutes. You can obviously change this to however long you want the meeting to be, but I want the meeting to be 30 minutes. Let's say I wanted it to be an hour. I would change this time unit to an hour, and this would make it 30 hours, but I don't want it to be 30 hours. I want it to be something more realistic. I'd change this to 1, right? And let's say I put something that is not recognizable, it would say invalid syntax and it would turn red. So if it turns red, that means that there is something wrong with how you formatted it. But if you format it correctly, it will just be gray. And that means that the syntax is correct, but it just doesn't exist yet. So once you have set your time, so I'm going to change mine back to minutes 30. And once you have your time, we can now add the attendees of the meeting. So these are going to be the members of the meeting. So I'm going to add an attendee. And for the first attendee, I'm going to add myself, obviously, because the meeting is always going to have you in it, right? So you're going to have whatever email you have at gmail.com. And then the second attendee is going to be the person who is trying to book a meeting with you. So if you go over to the Gmail trigger, we actually ran the automation earlier, so it should have picked up an email. If we scroll down to the from section, you should find the address of the test email that you sent out earlier. You can just drag that over to the field, and this is going to grab the email of the other person. And this is going to grab the email of the lead that is trying to schedule a call with you. So after we have done that, we can now just go back to Canvas and we can move on to the next node, which is going to be the Get Many Events Google Calendar tool. So we don't have to search up a new node. We can just duplicate this one by right-clicking and pressing duplicate here because they're both the exact same node, just the Google Calendar node. So if we double click on that, and for the description, the agent just needs to know that this tool retrieves all of your bookings. So if you head over to the description underneath this tutorial and go to the Google Calendar Get All Bookings tool, you'll find the simple tool description that I provided. The description just needs to look something like this. Fetches all events from my Google Calendar. Very simple. So the resource can be kept as event and you need to change the operation to get many. This is going to get many events from the calendar. So you just need to leave your calendar as is and toggle on the return all option, and this is going to return all the bookings from a certain time frame. So this would look at all of my bookings from now to 2 weeks time, so it would just search that time frame and return all of the results that it gets. So it's going to check all of my bookings after now and before 2 weeks time, which means that it checks between that time frame. And you can change this to whatever you want. So let's say you wanted it to check all of your bookings in a month's time. You do month and then 1. right? Or a year's time, whatever the hell you want. This is just so that the agent can check your availability and make sure that it doesn't schedule people on top of each other because that would be bad, right? So I'm going to change mine to 2 weeks because I don't really think people would be bothered to schedule a meeting 2 weeks out. But if you want to be safe, you can change this to a month to a year to just make sure that there is no crossover and there are no issues with double booking. So once you've done that, you can literally just go back to the canvas. That's all we need to do for that tool. And you can just link it up with here. And you can rename this to check availability to make this a bit simpler for ourselves, right? So we're save. And now we can move on to the third tool, which is going to be the Gmail reply tool, right? So you can add a new tool and you can search up the Gmail tool right here. And then the resource can be message, and you need to change the operation to reply. So this is going to reply to a specific email, and the message ID needs to be set to the thread ID. So we can go over to the Gmail trigger section and we can just drag this over to the field. The email type can be text, and the message just needs to be whatever our ChatGPT comes up with. So we can change this to expression, and we can do double curly brackets, and we can just go to from AI right here. And then for the key, we can change this to the Gmail body, and I think it would be better to set a description for this. So I'll change this to the main text of the email. So yeah, now it's going to know that this is where it should put the text of the email, and it's going to do that using the from AI feature, which I think is pretty sick. And for the tool description, you can just select set manually from the drop down. And for the description, you can just put something like sends an email reply in the current thread. Okay. Yeah, and that should be good to go. That just explains what it does. And that's it for this node. And I'm just going to rename this to apply to email so we know exactly what it does. And now that the AI booking agent has all the tools it needs to process an email from a lead, we can now mark the email as read after the AI booking agent has handled it. For this, we can actually just duplicate this node right here to mark the email as read. So you can right click duplicate and then just connect that to the main agent. And for the context, we can just leave it exactly the same. There's nothing to change. And yeah, and that is it for the main AI booking agent. Believe it or not, this is actually the whole agent done. So this will run by itself, but it just won't have any context about your business whatsoever. So it won't be able to answer any specific questions, and the answers may not be accurate either. So we might as well test the agent out, as it should work already. So I'm just going to test it out by composing a new email, and the subject is just going to be meeting. I'm going to write, can I book a meeting? Question mark. And then send that over. And if you wanted to turn the agent on, you just select this toggle right here and then press got it. And this will just activate the workflow. But for now, I'm just testing, so I'm going to make it inactive. And instead, I'm going to manually press this button to run the agent each time. So I'm going to press test workflow. I'm going to see if that works. Okay, so it looks like it replied to my email. It used ChatGPT to do so, and it also marked the email as read. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, so it says, hi Alistair, thanks for your interest in booking a meeting. What day and time works best for you? The reason it asked me for a date and time is because obviously I didn't provide a specific date and time, but also I gave it this exact scenario. So if we go over to booking intent, no date given, hi, name, thanks for your interest in booking a meeting. What date and time works best for you? And if we go back, that is the exact thing that it said. So this scenario, I guess, was activated and it sent this exact response. Okay, so now if we just reply and say, kids, I book at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and then send that over. Okay, so it looks like it didn't actually call the check availability because I changed the name. So if we rename this to get all bookings, it should check the availability before scheduling any booking. So let's just try that out one more time. So I just booked, could I book a meeting at 6 p.m. tomorrow? Send. And I just test the workflow out again. Okay, so we can see that it gets all the bookings to check the availability and it's replied to my email. So let's see what it says. Hi, Esther. It looks like I've already booked at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So it now recognizes that the slot is already taken and it's asking us, would you be okay meeting at my next available time slot later that day? And I'll just reply with, yeah, can I book a meeting at 7 tomorrow instead? And I'm not providing an AM or PM because I want to test the other scenario that I provided in the instructions. So let's just send that over. And if I just head back to the workflow and test it, I'm going to run the agent. It's going to reply to my email and let's see what it says. Hi, thanks for your message. Did you mean 7 a.m. or p.m.? So it correctly recognized that this is the situation that the lead doesn't provide an AM or PM. So if we head back, we can see that I provided these instructions. I said if the time is given without an AM/PM or morning, afternoon, evening, reply to the email with hi, name, thanks for your message. Just to confirm, did you mean requested time, which is 7 a.m. or p.m.? So it correctly did that message, everything went fine. So now that we've tested the agent out a bit, it is safe to say that it is responding correctly. It's also able to use the instructions that we gave it and the tools that we provided it as well. So we can move on to part 3, which is optional. So if you didn't want to provide context about your business, then you can click off this tutorial now. But if you wanted to, just carry on watching. So we're going to provide this information through something called a pinecone vector store. Now it sounds complicated, but I'm going to take you over through it step by step. But before the agent can actually access the pinecone vector store, the vector store actually needs to have some sort of context, such as our business information, so that the agent is actually grabbing something. So the first trigger is actually going to check whether there is a new file inside of the Google Drive folder containing our business information, because we want to make it so that each time we upload a new piece of information to this Google Drive folder, it then uploads that Pinecone vector store so that the agent is updated with the new knowledge. So you would have to create a new Google Drive folder and you can just name it business information. This is just where you're going to drop all of your text documents, PDF documents about your business information, and you'll be able to drag it in here. And each time you drag a new document, the Pinecone vector store is going to be updated, and so is the agent. So we can actually start creating this workflow that's going to upload the information, and we can add a first step. Now the first step needs to be the Google Drive node, and it needs to be on changes involving a specific folder so that it triggers each time our business information folder is updated with new information. And we do need to connect our Google Drive to n8n, and it might be a bit complex, so let me take you through step by step how to set this up. So you would just select the drop down and go to create new credential, and it is best to connect using the OAuth 2. And then you're just going to head over to Google Cloud, over to here, go to your console, and then search up the Google Drive API, and it should be this one here. Just make sure it is enabled, and then go to the navigation menu up here, and go to APIs and services, and you should see the credentials. Just click on that. And then you just need to go to configure consent screen, and then just press get started. And for the app name, you can do whatever you want, but I'm just going to put app demonstration. For the user support email, just select your own email and then press next. The audience needs to be external. Press next. Contact information, your email again, press next, and then finish, continue, and create. And that should be processing for a bit. And then you can just press create OAuth client. And the application type can be web application. The name can be whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it as web client 1. authorized direct URIs. This is where you add a URI and you need to head back into n8n and it's going to say OAuth redirect URL. Just click to copy and then paste that in there. And then once you've done that, you can just press create. And then you should get your client ID and your client secret. Just copy and paste those into n8n, 1 and 2, and then press sign in with Google, your account. And it is going to say n8n has not completed the Google verification process. And this is because we need to do one more thing. If you head back to your web client ID, if you head over to the audience tab right here, and you head over to publishing status, and you need to press publish app. Okay, you need to do this step, and just press push to production. And now the app is actually published. n8n should be able to connect to it. Just sign in with Google, and it says Google hasn't verified this app. Just go advanced, go to n8n.cloud, and now you should be able to select the permissions. So you can just press select all, press continue, and it will say connection successful. Now, once you've done that, you can just move on with your day, and your Google Drive account is now connected. So I'm just going to press the Google Drive account I already have. The bowl time is going to be how frequently it's going to check that Google Drive folder for updates. So let's say I set it to every minute. Every minute it's going to check my Google Drive folder and see if I uploaded any new files, right? So you could set this to every day if you wanted to, if you're not going to be uploading the files frequently. But I'm just going to leave it as every minute. And the trigger can just be left on changes involving a specific folder. And you need to select the folder in which you're going to be uploading the business information inside of. So I named mine business information, and that's why I'm going to search up business info. It should come up. There we go. And then watch for, you need to select file created. Or you can also just select file updated if you're just going to be updating the same text file or PDF or whatever it may be. So we can head back to Canvas and now move on to the second node, which is going to be the search all files in a Google Drive folder. So you can search up Google Drive, select that, and then just go down to search files and folders. And then for the credential to connect with, just select your account. You can just leave the resource as file/folder. The operation needs to be search. The search method needs to be search file/folder name. You can toggle on the return all to return all the files in that folder. And then you can add a filter, which is going to be a folder. And then from the list, you can just search up business information. It's going to be your business info folder. And that's it for the search files in a folder node. We can now move on to the third node of this automation, which is also going to be Google Drive. And matter of fact, we can just duplicate this one. So now that we've retrieved all our files in the business information folder, we now need to download them. And the resource needs to be file, operation download. You need to change the file from list to by ID so that it downloads the file by the ID. And then in this field, we need to provide the ID of the file. So if you come over here and go to the Google Drive search files, you can just drag the ID variable, parameter, whatever you want to call it, into this field. So head back to the canvas. We can actually rename these nodes right here to make sure it's more organized. So this node is going to check whether the folder is updated or not. So we can just do so this node right here is going to check whether a new file is created in our folder. So we can just write new file created. And this one is going to get all the files. So I'll just rename it to get all files. And lastly, this one is going to download the file. So just worry about that. So now that that's just a little more organized, we can actually upload those files from the Google Drive folder to a Pinecone vector store. So you can add a new node, and if you search up the Pinecone vector store, it should look like this. Then you can just click add documents to vector store. And before we do anything, we actually have to connect our Pinecone account to n8n. So we're going to do this by heading over to the credential to connect with, and just selecting the drop down and pressing create new credential. You're just going to need an API key for this. So if you head over to your Pinecone console, and on the left here, you can see there are these sections. You should find the API key section. Just click on that, and you can head over to create API key. It's real simple. Just put your API key name. So this can literally be whatever you want. So I'll just put demonstration Pinecone key, and then create key. And you'll get the API key once. Just copy that and paste it into the API key section and just press save. And just make sure your Pinecone account is selected for the credential to connect with. And the operation node needs to be insert documents. And here it will say Pinecone index, and we need to choose the Pinecone index which we want to upload those files to. So we need to create a new index over in our Pinecone dashboard. So if you just click on the create index button, you should be able to create a new index, and you can change the index name to whatever you want. But I'm just going to change mine to business-info. And for the configuration, you need to select the text embedding 3 small, because we're going to use this exact model when we're going to be loading those documents into the Pinecone vector store, and also when the agent is going to be retrieving information from the Pinecone vector store, it's also going to be using text embedding 3 small. So once you've done that, you can scroll down. Cloud provider can be AWS. Region, you can leave the region untouched, and you can just create an index. And it should look something like this. So you can see this green dot right here. That means it is active. And we can just do whatever we want with it now. If you head back into the node and press the Pinecone index, you should see your Pinecone index in this list. Just select it, and you can leave the embedding batch size to 200. And now we need to add an embedding and a document to the Pinecone vector store. We can add a new node to the embeddings, and we're going to be using the OpenAI embeddings right here. And for the model, we need to select the text embedding 3 small from the drop-down list, because that is the exact embedding model that we use for our index. As you can see, text embedding 3 small. So once you've done that, just go back to the canvas. Don't have to do anything else with that. And for the document, you can just select the default data loader. The type of data needs to be binary. The mode needs to be load or input data. And you can just leave the data format as automatically detect by MIME type. For the options, you can add an option, and you can add the metadata option, and then just add a property. The name is going to be file name, and the value needs to be the name of the file, but that doesn't exist yet since we haven't run this workflow yet. So just copy what I do. Actually, we need to change it to an expression, to double curly brackets, and then we can do JSON from here, and then dot name. So this is going to grab whatever name the file is. So now we can just go to the text splitter. We can add a new node for it, and just select the recursive character text splitter so that it splits the text into chunks by characters recursively, recommended for most use cases. You can set the chunk size to 1000, and you can select the chunk overlap to 250. So when the automation uploads all of your business information files to the Pinecone vector store, it's first just going to split those documents into batches, right? Or chunks in this case. And these chunks are 1000 characters. You can change the characters obviously by just changing this field. So your documents would be split up into these chunks that will then be fed into your index. And we do this so that when somebody asks a specific question about your business, it will reach into that vector store, and it will use keywords in that question to match it up with a chunk from your index, and using that chunk is then going to use that chunk as context to the question. Now I know I just yapped on for a straight minute, but I hope that clears things up a little bit more. And just to let you know, the chunk overlap is 250 characters, and that just means the amount of characters each chunk overlaps. So the second chunk right here has 250 characters from the first chunk, and it just overlaps for each chunk. And this means that each chunk has a bit of context from the last chunk. Chunk, 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 chunk. That's a lot of chunks, man. Okay. So that is the automation. So that is this workflow done. Just hit save. And I'm just going to rename this to upload pine cone rename. Okay. So now that we have our workflow, we can now create the document. So I've decided to give you guys a business info template. It's just a document where you can add in the information about your business. And the more information that you put into this document, the more accurate those responses will be from the agent. So let's just quickly go over through these sections. And you can get this exact template by going to the description of this tutorial and scrolling to the bottom. You should find the business info template. If you just click that link, you'll be taken over here and you can press make a copy and you should get this exact copy right here. So let's just go through these sections real quick. You change this depending on what type of business you have. You can remove and add sections. It's all up to you. So the company overview is just your business, how it helps target customers achieve a benefit through the key product slash services you're offering. Um, you can add any more information like the year the company was founded, blah, 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 your mission and your vision. And then the second is your core services or offerings. And this is just the product you are offering. The description, brief description of the service, what it solves and why it matters, the duration, the policies, and you can obviously have more than one service you're offering, more than one product, the description, deliverables, duration, terms slash policies for each one. So it is more detailed. And then there's the pricing and the packages, any packages you want to have and their pricing, your scheduling, so your operating hours, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., 6 p.m. So you can change this to whatever you want. Meeting slots, how long each meeting is going to be, 30 or 60 minutes. Uh, any policies, and then here is a nice one, frequently asked questions FAQ. You can just add any questions that are frequently asked in your business. The contact and escalation, this is just some extra contact info in case the customer needs a different way of contacting you. And the team bios is going to allow the agent just to know a little bit more about yourself so that it can then provide that to the lead. Okay, so I just want you to go through this, fill anything out, delete, add, do whatever the hell you want to do with it, just to make sure that it is personal to your business and it has the information the agent needs. So once you filled out the template, you can just head over to the Google Drive folder we created earlier, and you can drag and drop the document you just created. That contains all the information about your business. And you can just head over to the workflow that uploads it to Pinecone. And because we're only uploading one file, we don't have to activate the workflow just yet. We can just press test workflow. It's going to get all the files, download the file, and then upload it to our Pinecone vector store. So let's go over to here, refresh real quick. And as you can see, we have some chunks. If we just open up a chunk, press fetch, it has 1000 characters from our Google document, and they should have an overlap as well. So if we press the three dots on any chunk and do fetch, we can see, let's just say I'll grab this, it says automation platform, n8n, make.com, and Zapier are our specialities. And let's say we went to the second chunk, press fetch. It is a different chunk, but you can see that it also says platform n8n make.com Zapier because it's going to grab the end of the first chunk as context because we set it so that it has a 250 character overlap in our workflow. If we come down here, recursive character text splitter, it has a 250 chunk overlap. And you can see it also came out with 4 items, which is the 4 chunks right here. So now that we have our document loaded into our Pinecone vector store, you can obviously set this to active. And now each time you upload any document to the folder, it's then going to just upload that document to the Pinecone vector store. And each time it's going to just create more chunks and more chunks and more chunks until you have something that literally knows everything about your business. So I'm just going to rename the workflow to upload to Pinecone. And now that we've created the upload to Pinecone workflow that allows us to update our Pinecone vector store anytime we want to, we can now move on to part 3, which is just going to fetch that data from our Pinecone vector store, and our AI booking agent is going to use that data each time as context to reply to our leads with more accurate responses. So I just want you to head back to your main booking agent, and we are going to add a new tool, which is going to be the vector store question answer tool. It's going to answer the questions that our leads have with a vector store, which is our Pinecone vector store. So the data name can just be business info, so our agent knows that this is just the information from our business. And for the description of the data, I'm just going to quickly go over to the answer questions with context section and copy and paste this because I'm not bothered to do it spontaneously. So it just needs to be something along the lines of a vector store of information about the business. And I'm just going to set the limit to 5. Then you can just head back to the canvas. And now we need to add the vector store that we're going to be retrieving that information from. So you can add a new node and we're going to select the Pinecone vector store. We can finally grab the information from our Pinecone vector store. So where it says Pinecone index, just select from list and then select your Pinecone index where you uploaded that document of the business information. Mine is called business info. Then you can head back to the canvas. I'm just going to drag it over here. And then for the embedding, you need to select embeddings OpenAI and you need to select text embedding free small from the model because that's the embedding model we used to actually feed this data into the Pinecone vector store. So just head back to the canvas and you can just press save now. And there you go. You now have your own email booking agent that handles all of your leads for you through email, answers any questions they may have, and even books them in straight into your Google Calendar for you, all on autopilot. And if you want this exact template, again, just head over to the description. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll find the email booking agent. You can just download the blueprint and import it straight into your n8n by pressing the three dots up here, import from file, and then just selecting that file you just downloaded. And you should get this exact template. So if you want to get that blueprint and also all the resources I used throughout this tutorial, you can join Automation Academy, where you can also get an automation library full of tutorials like this one with ready-to-use automation blueprints, templates, and prompts. You can learn to build AI agents and also network with other builders inside the community. So if you want to check that out, it will be the first link in the description. If you found this tutorial helpful, consider liking and subscribing for more automation tutorials like this one. If you've got any ideas about what I should build next, you can either drop them in the comments below, or if you're a member of our school community, you can just head over to the vote for next automation, head over to the linked post, and you can vote for the next automation that I should build next. If you're getting any errors with the setup, then I'd recommend trying to sort them out yourself first, because I feel like everyone needs to build that habit of just trying to figure out the root cause of the error, and you are going to be running into errors a lot in no-code automation in general. But if you can't figure out what's causing the problem, you can just head over to this bot that I'm going to provide in the description of this tutorial called the Automation Academy Assistant, and it basically has the knowledge about this blueprint right here, so you can ask any questions about it. But if that doesn't help, the last resort is just to provide the error in the comments so that me or somebody else can try to help you out, or you can just directly message me in the school community. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.